Hello. Okay, so I just dropped the video of baby girl's birth story and my unmedicated water birth. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. This is going to be like an add-on to that video with questions and answers. So I did a poll on my Instagram and got a few questions, so I wanted to answer those. So yeah, stay tuned if you are interested. So the first question is, why a birth center? I'm going to elaborate on this a little bit more a little later, but why did I choose to birth at a birth center and get all my prenatal care at a birth center? What I wanted from my experience, I wanted to be surrounded by Black women. Didn't get that, but that's okay. But I wanted to do unmedicated. I wanted a water birth. I did not want to be pushing on my back. I did not want to be pressured while giving birth, which I hear so much about women who birth in a hospital setting. I wanted to be low intervention. I wanted to kind of just like listen to my body, because that's what I've always done, and I feel like it hasn't failed me. So that's what I wanted out of my birth experience. And at my first appointment, the midwife that I met with was wonderful. It was a Black woman, and it was great. But she said that they do not do water births at the hospital that they're affiliated with. And so for me, I was like, okay, well, do you have any suggestions, recommendations, anything like that? And she said, well, I know of a birth center and they are accredited, so check them out. Definitely consider staying with us. But if you decide to go to the birth center, that would be a great option. That sounds like something that you're looking for. And so I ended up contacting my birth center, and it was perfect. And so essentially the birth center was able to do everything for me that I was looking for, with the exception of having Black women a part of my medical staff. So there was that. That's why I went with a birth center. So another question I received is, how did I know when to go to the birth center? Especially because typically I assume that with a hospital birth, you kind of just go when your water breaks or when the pain is unbearable, and then you get your cervical exam, and then you either stay or you go. So for me, as a part of my birth center experience, it is built into our treatment that we receive lactation counseling or lactation classes and childbirth education. So as a part of those courses, they explain to us, okay, here's the different phases of labor. Here's when you're going to know when to call us. Here's when you're going to know when to come. And so that's essentially what helped me. That's when I knew when it was time to come. And my birth center was very, very flexible with answering questions. So I was in labor for 3 days. And so over that time, I was able to call them, of course. And they helped me also figure out like when it was time to come. Did my water break before going to the birth center? No. So initially, when I got there, my amniotic sac was still intact. And that is while I was still in my latent phase of labor, which early labor. And after going for a walk, going to the car, kind of standing and sitting a couple times, my water did break. And then that's when I was able to remain at the birth center. So that was all within the same day, within about a 2-hour time span of me first going, getting sent away, and then coming back. So let's talk about the pain. Everyone wants to ask about the pain, especially because I was unmedicated. So I'll break it down into the contractions and then actually pushing her out. So the pain with contractions for me was not awful. The worst part for me was the pressure of her on my pelvis. At the worst of it, I would say it was like an 8 out of 10. Like there was never a point where I was like, I can't do this. There was never a point where I was like, send me to a hospital. There was never a point where I was like, I need a medication or an epidural. I never reached that phase. So for me, I would say an 8 is as bad as it got, but I did have the techniques to get through them. And aside from that, I also had the mindset that I just need to get through one contraction at a time. They only last about 1 minute to 2 minutes, and 2 minutes is like the longest that one even ever lasted. But they were mostly about a minute and a half. What also really helped is Alizé doing like counter pressure on my back or doing the double hip squeeze. That helped so much. Being in the water helped so much. Walking around during contractions before I was in active labor helped a lot. Walking around helped a lot. Laying down for me just did not feel good. Laying down made it worse. Movement for me helped a lot. So that was the contraction pain. Actually, pushing felt like I had to make a bowel movement. It felt like it was just very uncontrollable, but controllable at the same time. That is, I would say, when the pain was at its peak. Again, there still was not a point where I was like, I can't do this. So I will not even say giving birth was like a 10 out of 10 on the pain scale. For me, it maxed out at a 9, and the worst part was her head coming out. That hurt. But I was still okay. I was still like breathing through it. The way that the midwives kind of instructed me, they were like, okay, well, we're not going to coach you on pushing. Listen to your body, breathe, blowing out all your breath, and then take another deep breath and just blow. And so I'm so funny because I was literally in the tub and I would like put my mouth in the water and be like blowing bubbles, you know, just anything to distract me and keep my mind off of the amazing thing that my body was doing. So the pain of pushing her out was like a 9 out of 10, still manageable, but it hurt like hell. So worst part about the pain, pressure from the contractions, pushing her head out, ring of fire. It's called that for a reason. Pushing position. So you could basically do any pushing position to prepare for labor. I was doing like a lot of deep squats, a lot of like cat cow yoga position on my hands and knees. When I pushed Marley out, I actually was on hands and knees. So my boyfriend's mom was there by my head, and then he was in the back watching her make her grand entrance. But it's whatever is most comfortable for you. Complications, if any, there were none. Thankfully, I did not have any complications. I just had a really long labor. So last 2 questions before we wrap this up is going to be what exam she had after birth. So I did consent to the vitamin K shot. I think it's just so silly to not get it because it's literally a vitamin. So why not? And then we did her erythromycin eye ointment. And then for exams, they of course weighed her. They checked her length. We did a heart defect screening. And lastly, we also did a glucose screening because she was very small for her gestational age. So she was born at 40 weeks and 4 days and was born 5 pounds 9 ounces. So she was small, so they wanted to do a glucose screening just to make sure that everything was all right. We did not do the hepatitis B shot. We did that at our pediatrician office. And then also I got a shot of Pitocin after she was born to help me deliver the placenta and control bleeding. Okay, so the last question, pros and cons from my experience. Pros are that I got everything I wanted out of my birth experience. I felt cared for the entire way through. I felt heard the entire way through. I did not feel like an inconvenience. All of my appointments, none of them were rushed. All of them were like 30 to 45 minutes. I know like a lot of women who go to like a traditional women's clinic or OB office say that their appointments are like 5 minutes. Listen to the heartbeat, maybe get an ultrasound, and then like that's it. But the birth center prepares all of their patients really well, especially through providing those childbirth education classes and making them mandatory, especially for first-time moms or first-time unmedicated birthers. I would say a con is that I felt everything, but that's also a pro for me because that's what I wanted from my experience. I'm just like that. Like, I just like testing my limits. I like testing limits in general. So seeing that I was able to come through and conquer it is very empowering. It makes me feel like a goddess, which I am. What else? What else is a con? I guess a con is just that there was like no Black women that worked there. But like I said, like I don't feel like I was treated bad at all at any point. I don't feel like I was overlooked at any point. I don't feel like I wasn't heard at any point. So, I mean, it's a con, but like it's really not. I don't have anything negative to say. So, yeah, that is the Q&A. That's all I have for you all today. So, again, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them. If there are enough questions, I'll do a part 2. Or if not, then I'll just answer them and reply to your comments. So, thank you all again for your well wishes. And thank you for supporting and loving on me. And I'm so excited to continue to introduce and show off my sweet girl. But yeah, y'all have a good day. Bye.